The alarm screamed across every warship in orbit above Viridian. 7. Something had just torn through hyperspace, without broadcasting identification codes, without hailing protocols, without any of the standard diplomatic niceties that prevented accidental wars. Commander Vakthor of the Kreth Imperial Navy felt his secondary heart skip as his sensor officer's voice cracked with panic. "Unknown vessel, sir. Configuration unlike anything in our database. It just appeared between our formation and the Council fleet." On the view screen, the ship hung in space like a predator, sizing up its prey. Sleek lines, dark metallic hull, and energy signatures that made Vakthor's scales itch with unease. This wasn't some merchant vessel that had wandered into a war zone. This was a warship, and it was broadcasting on every frequency used by both fleets. "This is the Earth vessel Defiant. We come bearing a message from Queen Victoria Hayes of humanity. All hostilities will cease immediately. Prepare to receive diplomatic envoys." The bridge fell silent. Earth? Humanity? Those primitives barely had fusion drives the last time anyone checked. They'd been politely ignored by the galaxy for the better part of a century. Their planet marked as a developing world with minimal contact allowed. And now they claim to have a queen? Across the void, Vakthor knew the Council fleet was experiencing the same confusion. Admiral Kess of the Council Defense Forces would be checking his own databases, finding the same outdated information. Humans didn't have monarchies. They didn't have advanced warships. They certainly didn't have the audacity to drop into the middle of a military standoff and demand anything. "Sir, they're launching a shuttle," his tactical officer reported. "Single craft, minimal escort. It's heading for the neutral zone we established with the Council." Vakthor's claws drummed against his command throne. This was either spectacular courage or monumental stupidity, perhaps both. But something about that ship made his combat instincts scream warnings. The energy readings were all wrong. Too clean, too powerful. Whatever humanity had been doing in their isolation, they hadn't been standing still. "Inform the Council we're accepting this contact," he growled. "But keep all weapons hot. If this is a trick, I want to turn that ship into vapor before it can sneeze." The shuttle descended toward Viridian, Seven's largest moon, where a hastily established neutral station served as the sole point of contact between the warring fleets. Vakthor took his own transport down, bringing his finest honor guard. When he stepped into the meeting chamber, he found Admiral Kess already waiting, the Council officer's tentacles writhing with barely suppressed agitation. "Do you know what this is about?" Kess demanded, his translator rendering his whistling speech into standard galactic. "No more than you, Admiral. Though I suggest we—" The door opened. Vakthor's words died in his throat. The human who entered wasn't wearing a military uniform. She wore something that looked almost ceremonial. Deep blue fabric with intricate patterns, a golden circlet resting on her dark hair. Two guards flanked her, but they seemed almost relaxed, hands nowhere near their weapons. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice carrying an edge that made both commanders straighten involuntarily, "I am Queen Victoria Hayes of Earth. We need to talk about the war you're fighting, why you're really fighting it, and who's been lying to both of you." Vakthor reversed first. "With respect, human, you have no authority here. This conflict predates your species' first space flight. The Kreth Empire has legitimate grievances against the Council's expansion into our territory. Grievances that appeared conveniently after the Council discovered rich mineral deposits in the disputed zone," Kess interjected. "Your empire manufactures excuses for conquest." Victoria raised one hand. The gesture was simple, almost casual, but both commanders fell silent. Something about her presence demanded attention in a way that had nothing to do with weapons or threats. "Let me tell you what really happened," she said, walking to the room's central display. 3 years ago, the Council's mining survey in the Outer Rim was leaked to Kreth intelligence, but not hacked, not stolen through espionage, leaked by someone who wanted you to know about it, Commander Vakthor. She tapped a control on her wrist device. The display lit up with communication intercepts, financial records, shipping manifests. Vakthor felt his blood chill as he recognized official Kreth military codes mixed with Council encryption patterns. 2 years ago, Victoria continued, someone sabotaged the peace talks on Meridian Station. The evidence pointed to Kreth's saboteurs, but the actual perpetrators used council explosives obtained through black market channels that conveniently led back to Kreth intermediaries. Another push toward war. This is council propaganda, Vakthor hissed, but his conviction wavered. Those codes were genuine. He could see that. 18 months ago, someone attacked a Kreth colony ship and made it look like a council strike. 6 months after that, a council diplomatic vessel vanished in Kreth's space. Every incident perfectly calculated to inflame tensions, to make reconciliation impossible. Victoria's eyes were hard now, moving between both commanders. You've been played, both of you, by someone who profits from your conflict. Admiral Kess's tentacles had gone rigid. The Zenith Collective, he whispered. Smart man, Victoria said. The Collective has been selling weapons to both sides, playing broker for peace talks they ensure will fail, and generally keeping you at each other's throats while they strengthen their own position. They're preparing for something bigger. Bakthor's mind raced. The Collective was known as a loose association of merchants and traders, officially neutral in all conflicts. But if what this human claimed was true, if they'd been manipulating two of the galaxy's major powers, why should we believe you? He demanded. Why would Earth, of all species, have this information? You've been silent for decades. And Victoria smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression, because we've been watching, Commander, and learning, and preparing for the day when we'd need to step in. She gestured to her guards. Oh, and because some of you apparently can't resist proving me right. One of Kess's own security officers lunged forward, a concealed weapon in his manipulator tentacles. The shot was perfectly aimed at Victoria's head. It never reached her. A shimmer of energy surrounded the Queen, and the projectile simply ceased to exist, consumed by a defensive field that made Vakthor's most advanced shields look like tissue paper. Victoria didn't even flinch. Her guards moved with frightening speed, disarming the attacker and forcing him to the ground. Kess stared in horror at his own officer. Check his accounts, Victoria said calmly, as if she hadn't just survived an assassination attempt. You'll find payments from a Collective subsidiary. They couldn't risk me exposing their operation, so they activated their backup plan. Kill me. Blame the peace talks' failure on human interference. Keep the war going. Vakthor was already on his communicator, ordering his intelligence staff to verify Victoria's data. Within minutes, reports flooded in. The communication intercepts were genuine, the financial trails existed, and more disturbingly, similar patterns of manipulation were appearing throughout the war's history. This doesn't make sense, Kess said, his voice shaking. Why go through such elaborate deception? Why not just conquer us directly if they have such resources? Because they wanted you weakened first, Victoria replied. A long war drains resources, reduces populations, creates dependency on external suppliers, like the Collective. By the time you realized what was happening, you'd be too exhausted to resist them. They'd sweep in as saviors, offering reconstruction aid and protection, and you'd welcome your own enslavement. The room's emergency alarms erupted. Vakthor's communicator screamed with incoming reports. Multiple ships decloaking throughout the system. Collective signatures. They're forming an attack pattern around the planet, and both our fleets. Victoria's expression hardened. Right on schedule. They've been monitoring this meeting. Now that their agent failed, they're moving to Plan C, eliminating all witnesses and blaming the mutual destruction on your war. On the tactical display, Vakthor watched as dozens of warships materialized from stealth fields. The Collective fleet was massive, easily matching the combined strength of both the Kreth and Council forces, and they'd positioned themselves perfectly for a devastating first strike. This is Commander Vakthor to all Kreth vessels, battle stations. We have been deceived. The true enemy is... Wait! Victoria interrupted. She touched her communicator. Defiant. Execute Protocol Guardian. The space around Viridian 7 suddenly became very crowded. Ships appeared from hyperspace in a coordinated emergence that spoke of military precision humanity supposedly didn't possess. Not dozens, hundreds. each one broadcasting Earth identification codes, each one taking up positions that turned the collective's perfect ambush into a death trap. Earth's Second Fleet, reporting as ordered, Your Majesty. A voice crackled over the open channel. Third and Fifth Fleets are in position at the system's edge. Shall we proceed? Vakthor stared at the display in disbelief. The human fleet was enormous, technologically advanced, and had apparently been hiding in his system for weeks without being detected. Everything he thought he knew about humanity had just been obliterated. Victoria's voice cut through the chaos with absolute authority. Collective vessels, this is Queen Victoria Hayes of Earth. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law. Resist, and we will demonstrate why you should never have underestimated humanity. The collective's response was predictable. They opened fire. What happened next would be discussed in military academies for generations. The human ships moved within human precision, their weapons tearing through collective shields like they weren't there. Energy beams that looked like focused starlight carved enemy vessels in half. Missiles that phased through defensive fields to detonate inside hulls. And through it all, the human fleet maintained perfect formation, each ship covering its neighbors, creating an impenetrable network of firepower and defense. All Kreth vessels, Vakthor heard himself saying, align with human fleet vectors. Target collective ships as designated. He looked at Kess. Admiral? The Council commander's tentacles were trembling, but his voice was steady. Council fleet, coordinate with Kreth and human forces. For once, let's fight the right enemy. The combined fleet hit the collective like a hammer. What should have been a lengthy battle turned into a rout within minutes. Collective ships that tried to flee found Earth's outer fleets waiting. Those that tried to fight were overwhelmed by the coordinated assault. And through it all, Victoria stood in the command center, watching with calculating eyes. Your Majesty, one of her officers reported, the collective flagship is attempting to retreat. Shall we destroy it? No, Victoria said firmly. I need their command staff alive. Prepare a boarding team. She looked at Vakthor and Kess. I'm going to need some of your best soldiers for this. We end this conspiracy today with proof that can't be denied. Vakthor felt a savage grin spread across his face. It would be my honor, Your Majesty. The boarding action was swift and brutal. Human Marines in powered armor led the way, their weapons and tactics showcasing centuries of warfare experience compressed into deadly efficiency. Kreth Honor Guards fought beside Council Special Forces, united for the first time in years against a common foe. Victoria herself was in the thick of it, her personal shields deflecting incoming fire while she moved with the practiced ease of someone who'd seen real combat. The collective flagship's bridge fell within the hour. The command staff, cornered and desperate, tried to destroy their records. They failed. Human technical specialists had already infiltrated the ship's systems, copying everything before the collective even knew they were being boarded. Victoria stood before the collective's supreme director, a tall humanoid with metallic skin and eyes that burned with hatred. Why? She demanded. You had wealth, influence, power. Why risk everything on this scheme? The director laughed, a harsh sound. Because the galaxy is changing, human. The old powers are weakening. We saw an opportunity to position ourselves as the dominant force. Your sudden appearance is merely a temporary setback. You orchestrated a war that killed millions, Victoria said quietly. You manipulated sovereign nations. You attempted to enslave entire civilizations. And, you call it a setback? What will you do, little queen? Execute me? The collective is vast. We have allies you cannot imagine. This changes nothing. Victoria leaned close. I'm going to broadcast your confession across every channel in known space. I'm going to show the galaxy exactly what you are. And then I'm going to offer them something you never could. A genuine peace backed by Earth's guarantee. Earth is nothing, the director spat. A latecomer with pretensions of grandeur. Earth, Victoria said softly, is what happens when you leave a species alone for a century and they decide to catch up. We've been watching you. All of you, learning from your mistakes, improving on your technologies, and preparing for the day when we'd need to step in. That day is today. The prisoners were secured. The evidence was compiled. And as the combined fleet regrouped around Viridian, 7, Victoria stood before the galaxy's leaders via holoconference, representatives from dozens of species watching as she laid out everything they'd discovered. The proof was irrefutable. Communication logs, financial records, testimony from captured collective agents scattered throughout both the Kreth Empire and the Council. The conspiracy had run deep, corrupting officials at every level, turning honorable soldiers into unwitting pawns in a scheme of conquest. "This ends now," Victoria declared. "The collective's assets are frozen, their leadership captured, their military scattered. But this cannot happen again. The galaxy needs a framework for lasting peace, one that cannot be subverted by profiteers and warmongers. And Earth will provide this?" Vakthar asked. He'd been permanently changed by the day's revelations, his certainty shaken.
"Earth will help," Victoria corrected.
"We're not conquerors. We don't want to rule you. But we've developed technologies that could benefit everyone. Medical advances, energy systems, agricultural techniques. We're willing to share them, but only if the galaxy commits to a binding peace framework." "What kind of framework?" Kess asked carefully. "Mutual defense pacts, economic cooperation agreements, a joint tribunal for resolving disputes, and most importantly, transparency in military buildups and weapons development. No more secret fleets. No more shadow wars." Victoria's expression hardened. "Break these agreements and Earth will intervene. We have the capability to enforce peace if necessary." "I'd rather not use it." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth wasn't asking for permission. They were establishing themselves as the galaxy's guardian, whether anyone liked it or not. But after witnessing their military capabilities and seeing the alternative, most species realized they had little choice. "The Kreth Empire agrees," Vakthar said slowly. "We have seen what deception and manipulation cost us. If Earth can guarantee our security and sovereignty, we will honor this peace." Kess's tentacles rippled in what his species used as a nod. "The Council concurs. We have much to discuss regarding the specifics, but the principle is sound." One by one, representatives from across the galaxy added their agreement. Some enthusiastic, some reluctant, but all recognizing that the balance of power had fundamentally shifted. Victoria watched them, her expression unreadable. She'd gambled everything on this moment, revealing Earth's capabilities years before the military had wanted to go public. But the collective's plot had forced her hand. If she'd waited, the galaxy might have torn itself apart in endless wars of manipulation. "Then it's settled," she said. "Earth will establish embassies on your homeworlds within the month. We'll begin technology transfers immediately, starting with medical aid for worlds affected by the war. And we'll work together to hunt down the remaining collective cells." As the conference ended, Vakthar approached Victoria privately. "Your Majesty, I must know, how long have you been planning this?" Victoria smiled faintly. "The moment Earth developed faster than light travel, we realized what we were walking into. A galaxy full of species at various stages of development, all making the same mistakes we'd made throughout our history. Wars over resources, ideological conflicts, manipulation by those who profited from chaos. We decided to do something different. We stayed quiet, watched, learned, and prepared. When the time came to reveal ourselves, we wanted to do so from a position of strength. You could have conquered us all," Vakthar said quietly. "We could have," Victoria agreed. "But what would be the point? Humanity learned long ago that empires built on conquest inevitably fall. We'd rather have allies than subjects, partners than slaves. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, if we're willing to share it." She turned to leave, then paused. "Commander, your people fought well today. I meant what I said about genuine cooperation. Earth may have the technological edge now, but we have much to learn from species with millennia of spacefaring experience. This is a partnership, not a dictatorship." Vakthar watched her go, his mind still reeling. In a single day, everything had changed. The war he'd been fighting was revealed as a lie. The enemy he'd hated was now an ally. And a species he'd dismissed as primitives had become the galaxy's most powerful force. But as he reviewed the battle footage, watching human ships dance through space with impossible grace, he realized something important. Victoria was right. This wasn't conquest. Earth had the power to dominate, but they'd chosen cooperation instead. They'd risk their own people to save enemies they'd never met, simply because it was the right thing to do. Perhaps, Vakthor thought, that was why they deserved to lead. 3 months later, the first joint human Kreth Council patrol swept through former collective territory, hunting the conspiracy's remnants. 6 months after that, Earth's medical technology had saved millions of lives on war-torn worlds. Within a year, the peace framework had expanded to include 40 species, all benefiting from shared knowledge and mutual protection. And aboard the Defiant, Queen Victoria Hayes watched the galaxy transform, not as conquerors or servants, but as guardians of a peace that would endure, because all species had a stake in maintaining it. The galaxy had tested humanity and found them worthy. Now it was time to build something that would last, together, and if any threat arose to challenge that peace, they would face not just Earth's military might, but a united galaxy standing firm against those who would divide them. Victoria allowed herself a small smile. The hard part was over. Now came the real work, proving that peace could be more profitable, more sustainable, and more rewarding than war. It was a challenge worthy of humanity's ambition, and they had never been ones to back down from a challenge.